State, where the province's Independent Electoral Commission has condemned the handling of NewzroomAfrika journalists by officials at the Daluxolo Intermediate School in Rocklands Ward 5 in Bloemfontein. The presiding officer told NewzroomAfrika crew that they were not permitted to divulge the number of voters registered to cast their special votes. The presiding officer at the voting station says IEC rules prohibit her from sharing that information with the media. Earlier, though, other presiding officers divulged those details with NewzroomAfrika. While we wait to listen in on that clip, unfortunately, let's move right now to our reporter, Tumaole Mohlaoli, who's following those proceedings. Tumaole, usually during elections, this often poses a tricky maze for journalists to navigate as they go on about their work. Tell us about your experience there.
Well, the experience was certainly one that I can describe as hair-raising because throughout the morning we were receiving quite a warm welcome from the various officials across the polling stations that we visited, and they were very forthcoming about the fact that we weren't allowed to be in the vicinity for too long. However, in the short while that we were allowed, we were given free access to take visuals of the polling station, and also we could ask questions about what was happening in terms of the amount of voters that were expected to come through to the facility to cast their special vote. Now, when we arrived at the Rocklands school, we were met with something of an aggressive and very, dismissive kind of response from the presiding officer, who told us in no uncertain terms that as media we weren't allowed on the premises. We were then effectively asked to leave the premises, but this is something that the IEC is frowning upon. I am joined now by Mathabo Rasenage, who is the spokesperson of the IEC in the Free State. Mathabo, your response, reaction to what happened to the NewzroomAfrika crew, including myself and Moranale Kika?
Yes, we have received quite a number of complaints from the journalists saying that they were denied access, especially in that particular school, and we have escalated the matter to our MEO office so that they can inquire with that presiding officer what the challenge is, because they do know, as the media, they are allowed, as the presiding officers, they are allowed to allow you guys to come into the voting stations, just as long as you don't stay for long, you don't take pictures of the voters making their ballot or making their mark. So you are allowed to go into voting stations.
And while we have you here, can you give us an update on what's happening provincially as we stand so far in terms of that voting process?
We have about 2,000 people that have already cast their ballots, and we have 54 or 58 voting stations that are closed already due to the number that have applied for special votes. They are done with them. They've covered them. Maybe if they have 33, they've covered all the 33. There's no need for them to open the stations because the stations are open according to the list of special vote applications that we have. So we're doing quite well, even though 2,000 it seems like a drop in the ocean, but anyway, we are continuing.
Right. And in terms of some of the challenges, what were some of the issues that you've stumbled across the province?
It was early in the morning where we had some stations that did not open in time due to unavailability of keys, and we managed to sort that one out. All stations opened. The tents that blew away yesterday due to the weather, they were erected again this morning, and just in time to start with our voting process.
Right. And as far as today goes, voters who are eligible, who registered for the special vote, can come to your stations. What time are you closing doors, and will anyone be turned away if they try to cast their vote?
No. People that are allowed to vote today and tomorrow are only those that have applied for special vote. So you don't just come and try to cast your ballot. You can only do that on Monday if you haven't applied for special votes. But for special votes, you are allowed to come to voting stations. So we are closing at 5 o'clock this afternoon, and once we are done with home visits as well, by 5 o'clock we are closing our stations.
And as far as tomorrow goes, is it still going to be the same procedure?
Same process. 8 o'clock we'll be starting with our voting stations that have not completed their special votes. And our teams will start again at night, 9 o'clock, to do home visits. And then 5 o'clock we'll be closing as well.
As the provincial IEC, are there any areas that you can say that IEC officials or voting stations have been, refused to operate or refused entry? Do you have any such reports?
We don't have any reports, even though we had contingency of the SAPS and the SANDF, but we don't have any challenges that we have come across so far. So far it seems like a smooth sailing.
Thank you very much. And so that is the view from the province of the Free State so far from the IEC, coming out very strongly against officials that impede or try to prevent the media from accessing polling stations. And of course, the media have also been given very strict restrictions in terms of the amount of time we can spend within any particular voting station. And of course, no one is allowed to interfere with the electorate as they go to make their mark, and they are not allowed to film or be near the voting ballot box where people make their secret ballots. So that's the situation as it stands, and the IEC says it will be addressing that issue of the poor handling of the media at that particular Rocklands voting station. With that, it's back to you in the studio.